I think this is something that's important to identify. How do you expect me to think that I am in abundance when I don't have the abundance? Now, if you're listening to this episode, whether you are a reoccurring person that has been watching from the beginning, thank you. What's going on, guys? Thank you so much for joining us on yet another episode for Walking Manifestator. I'm your host, Pena, and today I want to talk to you guys about clarity and purpose. Now, the reason I was inspired to talk about this is I've actually put together a workbook for some of our students, and this is the clarity and purpose framework. And ideally, I was setting this agenda out for our entrepreneurs, people that are essentially either already an entrepreneur or maybe somebody that is considering becoming an entrepreneur. Now, this could be anything, okay? I literally have some people that have told me I want to start a taco stand, and I think that's freaking amazing because you never know where that's going to take you. And then there's other people that they're like, look, I actually want to start a, teaching career on the side, or I want to do just more web development, whatever that might be for that person. And the reason I thought it was interesting to talk about it is because this framework is not just for somebody that is entrepreneur and looking to grow in that path. I also believe that as a individual, whether you say, you know what, being an entrepreneur is just not for me, that's not something I'm interested in, I do believe that to a certain degree, every single one of us has something internally that we would love to try out. Whether that's maybe you want to start running with other people and actually doing it a little bit more on a constant note. Maybe you want to start painting, maybe you want to start a clothing line, whatever that might be. I strongly believe that every single one of us has something that you can call an internal calling. The thing about that though is I feel that most of us have been so brainwashed to believe by external factors, by social media platforms, by whatever you want, that it is not something that's obtainable. I actually have a really good, acquaintance, and this person essentially has like these crazy wild ideas for like a clothing line. And he showed me his pants, all right? These pants were honestly pretty awesome. And I told the person, I was like, you should totally go for fashion design. Like, even if nothing comes about it, like the fact that you tried is amazing within itself, because you tried and you did something that most wouldn't even dare to dream of actually trying. This person kind of, dabbled at the idea, but they were like, well, I just kind of want to focus on some of like my own stuff right now and then maybe in the future. And I respect that. And this is a reason why I do also believe that sometimes having the right coaches, mentors, in whichever form you want that coach to be, but it helps you because sometimes all we need is somebody to push us out of our comfort zone. Now, if you're listening to this episode, whether you are a reoccurring person that has been watching from the beginning, thank you. But if you are just somebody that's maybe looking through the algorithm for actual podcasts that are teaching you different perspectives or sharing with you insights of what they have encountered, or even just looking through books and things that are now catching your attention about self-development, there's a reason why you're here. And I believe that that is the energy that you are now radiating out, and is allowing for this energy to actually put you in front of the opportunities that, if you decide to actually take action on, will end up yielding the best results. So with that being said, I wanted to share a little bit about what this workbook for me has and what it's going to involve, in order to hopefully have you take something that might resonate with you. Whatever doesn't resonate with you, then leave it. But what does, maybe you can implement it it and it can help you in your journey. Now, I will be having the download the description, so that is something that you are more than welcome to download. It is a completely free workbook, and of course, if you have any questions, feel free to let us know. Now, with that being said, the first thing I want to talk to you about is the overall framework, okay? Now, this is the Resilient Entrepreneur Growth Framework, and I have geared it around the issue of feeling burned out and unfulfilled. And I'm speaking for myself when I share that, because I think that as an entrepreneur, we have so many hats to put on, right? You're either a parent, sometimes you're the chief executive officer, you're the administrative task assistant, you are just taking care of so many things. Even if you have people that work with you, that is still going to require for you to understand the back end, at least into a certain degree where you're like, okay, everything is hands off, I don't have to worry about it. For most of us that are in this journey of still getting things to where we want, we wear a lot of hats. And sometimes what ends up happening is that we neglect to take care of ourselves, our internal well-being. And this is something that comes from our actual needs as humans. There are 6 components of what we need as humans, and one of them is to actually feel like we are growing, like we are contributing. And when we talk about this and when we really dissect it, a lot of the times we forget to take a moment to really ask ourselves, what is it that I really want? What is it that I want out of life? And this is a deep question. If you really sit in that question for long enough, you're going to realize that maybe the superficial aspect of it, I don't know, let's say one of your lifelong dreams was to become a doctor, okay, an attorney, a teacher. And if you really dig a little bit deeper, there is something that was actually imprinted onto you from whether it was somebody that you looked up to, a role model when you were younger, your parents maybe said that to you, you saw something that at one point molded you into wanting to actually become whatever it is that you are thinking of becoming or already are. The interesting part about that is when you dig a little deeper, for instance, I'll use myself as an example, in real estate. The reason why I really enjoy real estate and why I've had such a passion for helping people, I didn't realize it at that time when I first got into the industry, but the reality is that I enjoy talking with people, hearing about where they're at in their life and where they would like to be. So for me, it was a tool to actually help somebody, and at the same time, blessing my family with the ability of providing ends meet, right? Growing my business, and at the same time, giving somebody something that they were looking for. So it's an equal value exchange. So for me, when I dived in a little deeper, I was like, okay, I really enjoy this. I really love it, but I want more. And then I decided that one of the biggest things that brings me fulfillment out of life is when I truly, and I could sit here and really dissect it with you as I'm talking about it, it's when I'm being in a state of actually servicing others. When I'm servicing somebody, whether that be a simple conversation, whether that be something that I was able to do on a monetary, sense, whether it was somebody that I was able to lend a hand to, or it was somebody that I was able to connect with. That is something that not only makes me feel like I'm contributing value to them, but it also makes me feel like I'm growing. Because when I have these deeper conversations, it makes me feel like I'm actually fulfilling my place in this journey, which is for me growth, which is for me servicing, which is for me to understand myself better. And this is part of the reason why I do believe that asking yourself these questions of what is my purpose? Like, what is it that I want out of life? What is it that brings me that excitement out of life is so important, because if you don't ask yourself these questions, you're always going to be another NPC in this game. And if you think about it, it makes perfect sense, because most people, you can ask them and they're like, oh, well, this is just what society dictated. They're not going to say it that way, of course, but they're going to say, oh, well, yeah, when I was younger, I had this idea of becoming a, teacher, and since I could remember, that's what I wanted to do. So when I got into college, that's what I went to go do. but then you see them and they're not really fulfilled. Not all, okay? But for the most part, not everybody's living a life of fulfillment. And the reason for that is because we're not doing enough things that actually bring us that rewarding feeling, that sense of fulfillment, that sense of belonging, that sense of contributing to something bigger than ourselves. So the first thing that I want to at least suggest that you consider is asking yourself, what is the purpose and values that I really actually stand for? And take at least 10 minutes every single day to just reflect on what is it that you want out of life? What is it that you want out of your business? What is it that you want out of yourself? Now, number 2 in this clarity purpose tracker that I have is your mindset reset. Now, this is defining your limiting beliefs and the impact on your personal life. So, for example, let's say you want to go out and talk to people and encourage people and sell them on maybe this like new program you have, or maybe you're trying to sell them on these new bars of soap that you're trying to create, or maybe you want to showcase your art. But let's say you're also very, very afraid of talking in front of people. And I'm laughing about this because I personally love to talk. I can talk to you on a one-on-one all day. Well, as long as you have a good vibe, we can talk here all day. But it's funny because when I've talked in front of other people, for like now 2 years, because it used to not happen. And I guess because before I wasn't this conscious in terms of like what I'm actively saying, the energy that I'm trying to bring to the table. But for the past 2 years, whenever I'm going to have a conversation in public, I naturally already speak very fast. And when I'm talking in front of people, I've noticed that my speed speeds up a little bit more. So apparently I forget to breathe also. And it's funny because when I'm making these videos with you guys and just sharing, like, I'm perfectly fine because I feel like I'm just talking to a friend. I feel like I'm just talking to myself, and whoever enjoys the content, great. And whoever doesn't, it's okay, because this is still something that allows me to reflect on what it is that I am hoping to give to somebody else. And again, it's helping me grow. So ironically, when we're talking about the limiting beliefs that are holding you back and actually understanding what limiting beliefs are doing on your professional and in your actual life, I think this is something that's important to identify, because we have 2 choices at that point. One of them is facing it. Even if the first 10 times it's horrible, you know that you are working one step at a time to get to that end result, which is going to allow you to truly speak from a place of confidence. I love how Tony Robbins talks about it when he's like, yeah, when I first started talking, you know, everybody in the industry, because he kind of went into psychology and was trying to like learn from other psychologists and stuff. And he was like, everybody was kind of looking at me like I was crazy because I was trying to like skip all the steps of what they were in their mind taught to do. And in his mind, he wanted to do something very, very different. And they all criticized him, right? Because they're like, how are you expecting to do what we have taken years to do overnight, or whatever, you know, they were afraid of in that moment. But he said, I kept doing it, even though at the beginning it was very uncomfortable. And at the beginning, a lot of people looked at me like I was crazy. I mean, look, I don't regret it now. And he's one of, like, for me personally, one of the people that I really am fond of, and I'm manifesting that at one point I'm going to meet him. So let's keep track on that. At one point we're gonna look back at this episode and laugh about it. But with that being said, it's about taking those steps toward that direction versus not trying at all. And I read it recently in one of the books, actually, also Michael Singer talks about it, and he's like, do like the ant. And I was like, what do you mean the ant? Well, basically the ant, if you put your finger in front of it, it's gonna go around. You put another finger on that side, it's gonna try and navigate through it until either it dies or it's gonna keep trying. So when you have that mindset of just like, okay, where is this limiting belief coming from? Okay, well, it's the fact that maybe in the 3rd grade, everybody laughed at me and now I'm very, very shy to actually talk in public. Or maybe it's the fact that I'm just very self-conscious about what I'm saying and how I'm gonna come across, that maybe I should go a step back and not make it about me and make it about them, make it about what value am I here to deliver. So having something as simple as identifying where that limiting belief is impacting your life is already a step in the right direction. Now, number 3 is going to be goal setting / your achievements, okay? And for this, I want to use the technique SMART, which stands for specific, measurable, achievable goals, relevant, and time bound. Okay, so essentially, what is specifically something that you could do? What is something that you can measure? What is a achievable goal? So as an example, right? Let's say I know that every single week I want to make sure that I am putting content out. I want to make sure that every single day I journal. I want to make sure that every single day I go to the gym. And even if it starts with something small at the beginning, that is okay. But having something that you can hold yourself accountable to is super, super important in this clarity and purpose. Because if you don't know where you're going, how do you expect to ever get there? It's like so many people talk about like, oh yeah, I want to be, a millionaire. And if I were to go ahead and become a millionaire, I would never work a single day in my life. And it's like, that's probably why it's not happening yet. Because when you have that mindset of just settling, that's an energy that you're carrying. So you need to have that standard of wanting to always become better, of actually taking the approach of you knowing nothing in order for you to be open to learning something. And I think this is something that's very important. And for me, at least, whenever I've talked to other people, they've said it. And now I kind of use it within myself in terms of what is that thing that makes that sparkle in your eye shine? And I've talked to people like whenever I'm starting to talk about like manifestations and metaphysics and just things that I'm learning, they're like, dude, you have like this sparkle in your eye. And I'm like, honestly, I'm devoted to this. I love it because I know what it's helped me accomplish. And I know that every moment when I have like that little uncertainty or that moment in which things are not happening exactly the way that my ego wants them to happen, I catch myself and I go into my awareness and I'm like, okay, what can we learn from this? What is it that in this lesson I can learn to implement to become a better version of myself? And it doesn't mean that you're always this like happy sunshine and rainbows person. It just means that you're willing to actually come out of those thoughts and become aware of it. So for me, when I talk about personal development, it's something that I'm going to do until I die. Like that is something I can wholeheartedly say. I love to listen to my audiobooks and I love to read my books and I love to go to the gym. Like these are just little things that if you would have asked me 5 years ago, I would have laughed and said, how? Reading a book? Of course not. But now that I've implemented it, it's something that I enjoy doing. So what is that thing that you can sit here and say, this is a goal that I am willing to set for myself, that I am willing to hold myself accountable for? And the last one that I want to share with you, and this is one of the personal favorites, as you know, if you've been following along with our episodes, and that's visualizing and your manifestation. Now, I want to share with you some quick little tips for when you're actually trying to manifest something, because a lot of the times people think like, oh, I'm just going to sit in a room and meditate all day, and that means that I'm going to get every single thing that I want out of life because that's what the manifestation book said. No. And it's funny because a lot of people talk about that when it comes to like manifesting, that it's just about the law of attraction. And although that is a component of it, it's not the full story. So when I'm manifesting something, when I'm getting in this state of looking to attract something into my life, that opportunity into my life, I take 4 key components in this. The first one is going to be the thought that I'm having. The second one is going to be the emotion. The third one is the inspired action. And the fourth one is faith. And let me simplify this really quick. So when it comes to the first one, your thought. Your thoughts are always things that you are thinking about, right? The thoughts that you're having. And this is something that I will go a little bit deeper in our next episode so that I can really break it down a little bit further. But a thought is something that you can observe, something that you are thinking about. So when we have a thought, we need to go into our awareness to actually look at this thought that we are having and what is it saying? Is it saying that I am worthy, or is it saying that I'm not worth it? Is it saying that I look really ugly today and I probably should not go out, or is it saying that I look beautiful? Thoughts are simply products of our ego, okay? That is a thought. That is something that's coming from our mind, in my opinion at least. Now, when it comes to this thought, we have the power to observe it. It's kind of how I like to see it. Like, I'm kind of observing that thought from like another state of awareness where I'm just like, oh, that just triggered me. Where did that come from? So when you can identify the thought, a lot of people think like, oh, well, that means that you just want me to think positive thoughts and that should work, right? I'm gonna be automatically manifesting left and right. Not exactly, because the thought is one part of that equation. The second part of that equation is the actual emotion, the energy that you have with that thought. And something that I find very amusing actually is a lot of people say, how do you expect me to think that I am in abundance when I don't have the abundance? And I hear you, trust me, I hear you. But I want to play the opposite side of that. And I want to ask you, what if I asked you to think about something very deep? Like something that happened to you that you just know if you started thinking about it for long enough, you would probably start crying. I can almost guarantee that you can bring those tears, if you allow yourself to, within a few minutes. Why is it that we've been conditioned to be able to bring those energies to such a degree and to such vivid images when it comes to something negative, but we can't do the same for something positive? And listen, I'm not pointing the finger because I know this is something that I'm still actively working on, but the more that I practice, it's like going to the gym. The more that I do it, the easier it gets, and the more that I enjoy doing it. So next time you have that thought, and you are trying to marry it with the emotion, think of something positive that you've had happen in the past, even if it's not directly correlated to whatever that thought is, but bring that emotion and try and marry them together, okay? The third one is going to be actually acting in alignment, okay? When I say acting in alignment, I mean taking inspired action. When I'm talking about inspired action, it means a lot of the times people, and this is why I personally think that a lot of the times the manifestation realm and the whole like law of vibration, law of attraction things get very diluted, because sometimes people will try and tell you like, as long as you're always positive, you're always going to manifest abundance. And it's like, no, you need to take inspired action. Like, God, universe, all of the above is giving you all the stepping stones, and now you need to go and do something with that toolkit that you have at your disposal. So when I say inspired action, it's for instance, right now, me. I sat down, I read some parts of my book, and then I said, it's time for my podcast. I got in that state of emotions being actually at an all-time high in order for me to actually be able to come and stand here before you guys and really talk about stuff that to me is impacting my life. So how are you taking inspired action? And the last part of that equation is your actual faith. Now, faith is something that I know I struggled a very long time with, because I thought that there was nothing out there that was protecting me or helping me, and I felt very lost. So when I talk about faith, it's going from a place of hoping to a place of knowing. And that is one of the most powerful things that I have personally started to implement. I don't hope for health, I know I'm health. I don't hope for more abundance, I am abundance. I don't hope for mental sanity, I am mental sanity. And that to somebody that has triggers, because trust me, that's how I felt when people would say it this way. I was like, oh, this person is just cocky, like this person is just conceited, like what is wrong with them? But why did I feel that? Because there was something that was acting as a mirror. That person was acting as a mirror to show me what I felt within me that was lacking. Therefore, them having such a devotion and confidence in what they believed in was triggering me. It had nothing to do with them. So now when I say I am health, it means that I'm going to do everything in my physical power to go out and be as healthy as I can. And all I can actually now at this point know is what I am actually taking as a tangible step to implement into my life. At the end of the day, the only thing we have the ability to actually control is the responsibility that we take into these situations. And I talked about it in another episode, and I'll say it again. Responsibility is simply your ability to how you respond to the situations at hand. That is all. How are you choosing to respond to the information that you're consuming? You see, when and Jim Quick talked about this. If you don't know who Jim Quick is, highly recommend you check him out. He's a brain coach, and he talks about how a lot of the times people say knowledge is power, and he's like, I don't think that's true. He's like, I think that knowledge is potential power, right? Because if you don't do anything with it, then what good was it? What good is it that you listen to this episode if you're not going out there and implementing? What good is it that you're learning about the law of one, but yet you're treating your neighbor like right? What good is it if we're not implementing these strategies that we are here trying to evolve and learn from? So with that being said, I want to thank you so much for tuning in into today's episode. I do want to invite you, for those of you that have stuck around up until this point, we are going to have an event for our free workshop, okay, on August the 7th. If that's something you're interested in, we're going to be giving, well, for those of you that already listen to the podcast, you'll have already the workbook. But for those of you that are interested in also participating, we will have a live class. We're going to talk a little bit more about energies and overall how to change these limiting beliefs and actually ensure that we have tangible strategic things to implement for our day-to-day activities. So if that's something you're interested in, please feel free to check the description. All the details will be there. With that being said, I am sending you many blessings, and I will talk to you guys on the next one.